The whole world seemed to hold its breath as King Charles and Prince William, both visibly worn down by the pressures and expectations that come with the crown, finally stepped forward. But what followed wasn't the polished, carefully crafted royal statement people were accustomed to. Instead, it was a deeply emotional and vulnerable confession about Princess Catherine's troubling condition, a truth that palace advisors had worked tirelessly for months to keep out of the public spotlight. Their words left many wondering, what exactly had been happening behind the tightly guarded doors of Kensington Palace during all this time? And why had the situation reached a point where silence was no longer possible? Why did William appear to break royal protocol with what many saw as a bold, unprecedented move against his own father? Today, we pull back the curtain on a dramatic behind-the-scenes timeline often discussed by royal watchers, a story of Catherine's struggles, rising tension within the institution, and the sense of betrayal many believe unfolded behind palace walls. This is not just a story about health, it's a story of power, pressure, conflict, and how Catherine's quiet strength, as described by her supporters, may have influenced the monarchy in unexpected ways. Don't miss a moment, subscribe, hit like, and comment below as we dive into this extraordinary chapter of royal speculation and analysis. Just moments ago, Buckingham Palace broke its silence with an update that immediately shifted global attention toward London. The atmosphere at the press briefing seemed to grow heavier as King Charles and Prince William stepped forward composed, yet clearly affected by the weight of the moment. This wasn't a routine ceremonial appearance. It was a rare instance in which the royal family shared information they felt obligated to address, a sensitive development that many in the public had been anxious about for weeks. The palace stated that Catherine had undergone a planned procedure and was recovering, but observers quickly noticed a shift in Prince William's schedule, suggesting he was navigating an emotionally demanding period. Some of his engagements were postponed, others rearranged, and each time he appeared in public, the strain seemed apparent. Even as questions from the press continued to surface, the palace remained measured and guarded in its responses, fully in line with the royal family's long-standing approach to preserving personal privacy. King Charles spoke first, his tone subdued and emotional, yet warm, less like a monarch and more like a father expressing deep concern and genuine affection for his daughter-in-law. Prince William followed by sharing sincere appreciation for the public's support during what many observers described as an undeniably challenging period. He offered no overly bright assurances. Instead, he acknowledged the uncertainty surrounding the situation, emphasizing that the family remained hopeful while also preparing themselves for whatever the coming weeks might bring. What truly moved the public was not just the message itself, but the way the palace chose to present it: calm, sincere, and intentionally free of unnecessary alarm. Their approach conveyed genuine respect for Catherine's privacy and gently reminded everyone that regardless of status or title, every person faces moments of vulnerability and deserves compassion. In that moment, she wasn't seen merely as a royal figure, but as a powerful symbol of strength and resilience. In those early days, he continued to carry out his royal duties, offering the expected smiles, nodding through meetings, and delivering brief statements meant to reassure the public. Yet behind the closed doors of Adelaide Cottage, his private life was growing increasingly heavy. The partner who had always stood by his side throughout their royal journey was facing challenges, while the palace maintained its long-standing expectation that he remain silent and act as if everything were normal. Even so, many questions remain unanswered. The palace has shared few details about her situation, stressing instead that this is a time when the family needs privacy. To see the full picture, we need to look back to the early weeks when Princess Catherine first stepped back from public life. At the time, most assumed it was simply a routine period of rest and recovery, but as the weeks went by with no new photos, no official appearances, and no updated schedule, public concern began to grow. As the silence continued, speculation naturally began to emerge, yet reputable media outlets reminded the public to avoid spreading unverified information, stressing that when it comes to matters of health, compassion, understanding, and respect are essential. Amid all this, images of Prince William looking thoughtful and quietly strained highlighted the immense pressure he faced, balancing his duties as heir to the throne with his role as a husband deeply concerned for the well-being of the woman he loves. The atmosphere in the room was solemn, no pomp, no elaborate ceremony, just genuine sincerity and respect for those gathered to listen. The message they shared was brief, yet carried significant weight, leaving a lasting impression on everyone present. The palace confirmed that Princess Catherine's health had recently required special attention, signaling the seriousness of the situation. While no medical details were released, they acknowledged that the family was facing a particularly challenging period and appealed to the public to understand the importance of privacy, discretion, and compassion during this time. Even though he had been trained for his royal duties from a very young age, nothing could have fully prepared him for a moment like this. That image served as a reminder to the public that behind all the ceremonies, protocols, and titles, they are still a family in need of compassion, patience, and respect. For William, the role of a devoted husband has always carried more weight than the title of prince, and it was precisely that instinct that led him to make a choice that prompted the entire royal family to pause, reflect, and reconsider how they navigate both duty and personal life. His familiar public smile faded, replaced by eyes that looked weary, carrying the quiet anxiety of a husband trying to stay strong. As William's emotional burden grew heavier each day, Catherine became the focus of the nation's concern and empathy. She said little, yet her condition spoke volumes. Every subtle expression, every gentle tone in her voice, served as a powerful reminder of just how important it is to prioritize one's health, regardless of status, title, or position in society. The words, "We hope, but we must also prepare," captured the heavy responsibility of a husband striving to remain composed under immense pressure. Almost immediately, from Windsor to Kensington and beyond, people lit candles and sent prayers, wishing peace and comfort to the royal family. International media interrupted their regular programming to share the updates, while millions of messages of support poured into Buckingham Palace, reflecting the deep admiration and compassion the public continues to feel for a woman they have long respected. Isolation gradually began to affect William. Friends noticed he was attending fewer and fewer gatherings, while advisors grew worried as their calls went unanswered. He even distanced himself from his closest aides, choosing silence over the long, predictable conversations expected of him. And when he did speak, his words were direct, unfiltered, and increasingly resolute. Behind the palace walls, tension grew with each passing day. When he was instructed to continue following the royal image protection script, William made a decisive choice: he would no longer comply. Meanwhile, advisors suggested creating controlled images of Catherine to reassure the public, but William rejected the idea completely. He refused to allow his wife's struggles to be turned into a public relations tool. Instead of taking the safe, scripted route, William quietly reached out to a few trusted journalists, not to create scandal, but to help guide the story towards something honest and compassionate. As Catherine's condition worsened, William's worry and despair deepened. He could see the changes clearly, her voice growing softer, her eyes losing their sparkle, and her energy fading, as if weighed down by an invisible burden. Her story also became a powerful reminder of the importance of privacy and the need for peace in everyone's life. Amid all the mounting pressure, Charles was the last person anyone expected to take an unconventional step. A man known for his tradition and caution, he changed the moment he stood at Catherine's bedside. Witnessing her frailty, her quiet courage, and the vulnerability she carried shook him profoundly. From that point on, it became impossible for him to hide behind old protocols and familiar rituals any longer. His words immediately brought the debate to a standstill. It was one of the rare occasions in his reign when personal emotion took precedence over tradition. Advisors exchanged glances, realizing they were witnessing a turning point, something entirely different from the careful, composed king they had always known. This was not a calculated political move. It was an expression of genuine compassion, something no media strategy could ever fabricate or hide. In that very moment, a new dividing line began to emerge within the walls of the palace. He was no longer focused on protecting an institution, he was protecting his wife. A brief email to his father carried just 5 words in the subject line. "She deserves better than this." The message did more than make a request. It highlighted the urgent need for transparency and compassion. When the email leaked, public reaction was immediate and intense. Articles appeared rapidly, yet William remained steadfast. Rather than turning against him, the public began to question whether information had been overly controlled and whether the truth had been kept from them for far too long. Charles left the room wearing a deeply contemplative expression. His silence that evening spoke louder than any speech ever could, conveying the weight of the moment in a way words never could. At Clarence House, he called an extraordinary meeting not to plan ceremonies or upcoming engagements, but to confront the reality that people and truth are far more important than long-held traditions. In that rare and revealing moment, it became clear that no matter one's position or title, the most essential qualities are often compassion, empathy, and the willingness to truly listen to those around you. For the first time in many years, they were no longer just father and son, they were partners standing side by side. Together, they began drafting an important announcement, not as royal figures preparing a formal declaration, but as 2 men determined to protect someone they deeply cared for. The meetings, which had started off tense, gradually became more focused, with every sentence and every word carefully considered to ensure both clarity and accuracy. Camilla, long experienced in guiding strategy, tried to reason with him, reminding him of the need for caution and the pressure to uphold the royal family's image of stability. She spoke about public expectations and the demand for steadiness and responsibility during challenging times. But this time, Charles no longer wanted to play the role of a monarch who simply followed protocol. His voice was firm and resolute as he made it clear that silence was no longer acceptable, and that the most important priority now was to honor and respect the person who needed understanding the most. Some sided with Charles, believing that greater transparency would earn the public's respect. Others worried about the potential consequences of breaking long-standing tradition. But everyone sensed one undeniable truth: the atmosphere inside the palace had shifted. In the days that followed, something even more unexpected occurred. William, who had long held his share of disagreements with his father, began to see him in a different light. United by the same worry, the same sense of urgency, father and son found the distance between them slowly starting to close. They rehearsed the speech behind closed doors, not to achieve flawless perfection, but because they understood that every word carried weight and could influence how the public would react. The narrative surrounding Catherine was no longer being shaped with restraint, but with a sense of openness and genuine respect. However, this shift sent quiet tremors through the royal household. Advisors who had once held considerable influence began to feel uneasy, realizing that long-standing protocols were being challenged and that the balance of power was moving in directions they could no longer fully control. Routine checkups had suggested that something wasn't entirely right, yet those early signs were often overlooked in an environment where stability and composure were always the highest priorities. Catherine continued appearing in public with her familiar, reassuring smile. She attended events, met with communities, and carried herself with the same grace people admired. But after each engagement, the fatigue became a little more noticeable. At times, her diminishing energy forced her to pause just briefly to steady herself before moving forward again. The choices each person makes in this story don't just reflect their responsibilities, they also remind us that genuine sincerity and empathy can change everything. The meeting room was filled with senior aides, advisors, and even Camilla. What was normally a formal, orderly environment suddenly grew tense when Charles, a man known for his steady composure, brought his fist down on the table. The whole room fell silent, with firm, unshakable resolve. He said there was no reason to keep hiding the truth any longer, and that the public had the right to know about the quiet battle a member of their family had been fighting. They worried that changing their approach would create a new precedent, that sharing too much truth would make everything harder to manage. But their biggest fear was losing the carefully crafted image the monarchy had built over generations. Still, the truth could no longer stay hidden behind closed doors. The situation became even more complex when it was revealed that Catherine had been showing signs of exhaustion long before this moment. They were subtle but consistent signals, often overshadowed by her demanding schedule and the enormous responsibilities she carried. These moments unfolded quietly, kept out of the public eye out of respect for her privacy. On several occasions, she nearly collapsed during community events, but each incident was managed discreetly. Medical staff recommended further tests to better understand what was happening, and the more detailed results raised genuine concern. They urged immediate rest and early treatment. Yet within the royal household, caution about media reaction and fears of public criticism caused every decision to be postponed, pushing important choices further and further away, even as the situation became more serious. If you feel that her courage and honesty truly touch your heart, go ahead and drop a 1. If you're still on the fence or not completely convinced yet, leave a 0. Sit back and enjoy the full video, and while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you meaningful, emotional, and inspiring stories that stay with you long after the video ends. While advisors were still debating how to handle the situation, Catherine's condition began to change faster than anyone had anticipated. On the outside, she remained calm and composed, but inside, she was waging a quiet, relentless battle. William noticed it immediately and repeatedly urged the advisors to rethink their approach. But by that point, the delays had made everything far more complicated. Beautifully crafted images and carefully worded reassurances were prepared to keep the public calm, yet behind those polished messages, the reality could no longer be hidden. In those few fleeting seconds, she spoke honestly about what she was going through. The video appeared unexpectedly, not as part of any planned campaign, but as a personal, deeply courageous message. In that moment, the royal family felt more human and relatable than ever before. And it was precisely that moment that shifted how many people saw the importance of transparency, courage, and the profound value of speaking the truth. Her eyes, the pauses between her words, every measured breath carried a quiet, unwavering determination. She thanked everyone who had waited patiently and asked for more privacy as she continued her treatment. Yet beneath each word was a subtle sense of someone gently letting go of something familiar, soft, restrained, and deeply moving. There was no drama, no grandeur, only a stillness that gripped the hearts of everyone watching. It was as if she fully understood the weight of the truth, yet had no choice but to speak it in a quiet, deliberate whisper. But behind all of this were long, difficult conversations within the royal family about what the right decision truly was. One side believed the public deserved to know, the other worried that revealing the full truth could make everything spiral out of control. Even under immense pressure, it was Catherine herself who made the most unexpected move. She chose to speak out on her own terms, not through a palace briefing, not with a carefully crafted media strategy, but in a simple, heartfelt video recorded in the quiet of a garden where she could share her feelings honestly and directly with the world.